120 of this Parliament is now called to order. May we request
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar,
session suspended for 1 minute.
Allah.
Session resumed. May we request MP Sidesake to lead us in prayer to seek the guidance of the Almighty so that all of us will be guided appropriately.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wa qala rabbukum ud'uni astajib lakum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki yaumiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Amin. Rabbana zalamna anfusana wa in lam taghfir lana wa tarhamna lanakunanna minal khasirin. Rabbana la taj'alna fitnatan lil ladzina kafaru waghfir lana. Rabbana innaka antal azizul hakim. Rabbana la tuzigh qulubana ba'da idh hadaitana wa hab lana min ladunka rahmatan innaka antal wahhab. Rabbana afrigh alaina sabran wa thabbit aqdamana wansurna 'alal qaumil kafirin. Wa sallallahu ala khairi khalqihi nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Please remain standing for the singing of the national anthem and the Bangsamoro hymn.
Mga kababayan, awit ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas. Kayang magiliw, helas ng sinakanan, alam ng puso, sa dikit mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyag ka ng magiting, sa mandulupin, di ka pasisingil, sa nagatak tutok sa simoy at sa langit ng bagaw, ay atin ang nakamtan. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, pagpalain Bangsamoro. Bangsamoro, Bangsamoro, lagi kang mamahalin. Walang pipigil sa damdamin, mga pangako'y tutuparin. Habang buhay kami sa'yo'y magbabantay, mananatili sa puso't isipan. Ang kahapon muling layngan, nagbuwis ng buhay, nasa piling na ng may kapal. Bangsamoro'y tagumpay, bunga ng bawis, sugo at buhay. Kapayapaan, katarungan, ay atin ang nakamtan. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, pagpalain Bangsamoro.
Secretary General, can you call the roll, determine quorum, and so that we will know whether we can do business today.
Roll call. Honorable members of BTA Parliament, Abbas Sakmad, Abbas Harun, Abbas Basit, Abu Mujib, Adyong Rasli, Alamia Laisa, Elauden Mosber, Ali Ilanang Jr., Ambuluto Suharto, Ambatuan Baintan, Anayatin Susana, Antaw Muhammad Kelly, Antuk Tumanda, Asarul Haber, Asnawi Dan, Balindong Ahmad Amir, Bayam Zulfikar Ali, Benito Abdul Basit, Kandaw Ma'ruf, Kutan Utto Salim, Beranggalan Hashimi, Dumama Alba Shia Ilaiha, Ibil Muhammad Nazir, Ismail Suharto, Estino Matarul, Gayak Amiruddin, Gera Edward, Haji Abdullah Khalid, Hasim Abdullah, Hasan Hatimil, Hataman Abrar, Ibay Ibrahim, Iqbal Muhagger, Ismail Rasul, Jajuri Raisa, Chikiri Saripuddin, Kadatuan Kitam Jr., Karon Bay Ali, Karon Faisal, Lim John Anthony, Luong Benjamin, Luong Don Mustafa, Lorena Jose,
Present.
Makakuha Abduraub, Makapar Abdullah, Malang Butz Jr., Mantawil Baileng, Mastura Ishaq, Patalan Japar Apollo Mikael, Mendoza Proilin, Mitimbang Michael, Mitimbang Tawakal, Miswari Abdul Karim, Miswari Norreda, Mitmog Rasol Jr., Mundir Ali Rakim, Munoz Hussein, Oranon Suwaib, Pakasam Obayda, Agayaw Alindatu, Pak Abdul Wahab, Parcasio Randolph, Piang Ramon Sr., Rakim Amer Chakaria, Salindab Said, Salik Ali, Sema Omar Yasser, Sema Romeo, Sheikh Said, Sinarimbo Nagib, Sinulinding Kadil Jr., Sulaiman Ali, Sumagayan Aminuddin, Tan Nabil, Usman Azfar, Uy Oyod Siti Fahani, Yaqub Muhammad.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Mr. Speaker, with 44 members of the Parliament responded to the call, we therefore certify the presence of quorum. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
With the certification, Secretary General, we have the number to constitute quorum. We can do business for for this session today. But before anything else, I'd like to suspend the session to allow Deputy Speaker, my esteemed colleague and BFF, Deputy Speaker Nabil Tan, to preside, because I will be joining in the deliberation for the unfinished business. Thank you.
Resume. How can I refuse the acting speaker who is clothed with full authority being the acting speaker, because the speaker is abroad and it's not an OIC, he's the acting speaker, so you know what to do. Majority Floor Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Presiding Officer, Deputy Speaker, Attorney Nabil Tan. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable members of the Parliament of this august body, our Speaker, Muhammad S. Yaqub, our Acting Speaker, Attorney Jose Iribani Lorena, Acting Speaker, again, and our Chief Minister, fellow members of the Parliament, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Good afternoon.
Waalaikumsalam.
Honorable Presiding Officer, the indicative order of business has been sent by email as well as physical copies were furnished our members. Next, in the order of business, item numbers, Roman numeral number 6, the reading and approval of journal of the previous sessions pertaining to Journal number 30 of November 7 to 2025 and Journal number 36 of January 26 to 28, 2026 sessions. I move that we dispense with the full reading of these journals and move to approve the same.
There's a motion to dispense with the reading and further move for the approval of the journal of the previous session, journal number 30 of November 17 to 20, 2025 session. There any second? There any objection? Chair hears none, so it is hereby approved. Floor Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Presiding Officer. We will move to item Roman numeral number 8, there being no other recognitions, so on, so forth. I therefore move to request that the Secretariat read one by one BTA Parliament Bill 442, Parliament Bill 446, Parliament Bill 449, and finally Parliament Bill 463 on first reading. So move, Honorable Presiding Officer.
There's a motion for the Secretariat to read. The Secretariat is directed to read the following bills on first reading: 442, 446, and 449.
And 463, Honorable Presiding
And
Officer.
463. Secretariat, please read.
BTA Parliament Bill number 442 entitled An Act Creating the Bangsamoro Environmental Adjudication Board, defining its powers and functions and for other purposes. Authors, Members of Parliament, Aminuddin Sumagayan, Rusdi Adjong, Ahmad Amir Balindong, Amir Jakaria Rakim, and Ali Rakim Monder. BTA Parliament Bill number 446 entitled An Act Regulating the Grant of Regional Franchises and Concessions in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, empowering the Chief Minister to grant leases, permits, and licenses over agricultural lands and for forest management, and for other purposes. Authors, Member of Parliament, Shia Ilaiha Dumama Alba, and Edward Guerra. Co-authors, Members of Parliament, Mohager Iqbal, Ubayda Pakasam, Matarol Istino, Said Sheikh Muhammad Nazir Ibil, Suarto Ismail, Abdullah Hasim, Ali Salik, Rais Adjadjuri, Amiruddin Gayak, Mosber Alauddin, Said Salenda, Harun Abbas, Basit Abbas, Lanang Ali Jr., Abdul Wahab Pak, and Muhammad Yaqub. BTA Parliament Bill number 449 entitled An Act Authorizing the Ministry of Health to implement programs and grants for the prevention and management of asthma and other related respiratory problems among low-income families and communities in Bangsamoro region. Author, Member of Parliament Hasim Edinangalan. Co-authors, Members of Parliament Ahmad Amir Balindong, Mosber Alauddin, Nurinda Miswari, Hatimil Hassan, Benjamin Loong, Nabil Tan, Zulfikar Ali Bayam, John Anthony Lim, Michael Mitimbang, Mujib Abu, Suway Boranon, and Tawakal Mitimbang. BTA Parliament Bill number 463 entitled An Act Institutionalizing Da'wah Activities in the Bangsamoro region, providing funds therefore and for other purposes. Authors, Members of Parliament Muhammad Yaqub and Muhammad Nazir Ibil.
Floor Leader.
Thank you, Secretariat. Thank you, Honorable Presiding Officer. We move now to item B of the same Roman numeral. We only have one resolution, resolution number 800. I therefore request that the Secretariat be directed to read the same. Thank you, sir.
Before we proceed, in regard to the three bills on first reading, we are given a form for co-authorship. If you wish to co-author, just fill it out and submit to the Secretariat the form. Thank you. The Secretariat is directed to committee resolution.
It's a proposed resolution, Honorable Presiding Officer, by MP Amiruddin Gayak.
Ba't iba ito? Iba. Ha? Ito? Government of the day. Ha? Iba. Sorry, I have a wrong copy. Well, we have proposed resolution number 800. The Secretariat is directed to read the title and the author.
Proposed resolution number 800 entitled Resolution Urging the Bangsamoro Government to Establish Bangsamoro Peace Institution Center in order to promote sustainable peace through understanding of moral values and interfaith harmony. Author, Member of Parliament Amiruddin Gayak.
Floor Leader.
Honorable Presiding Officer, I move that this particular resolution be referred to the Committee on Public Order and Safety. So moved.
There's a motion to refer proposed resolution 381 to the Committee on Public Order and Safety. Is there any second? Is there any objection? Chair hears none, same is hereby approved. Referred to the Committee on Public Order and Safety.
Thank you, sir.
We proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Presiding Officer. We now proceed to Roman numeral item number 9, bills on second reading. May I request that the Secretariat be directed to read one by one. First, the BTA Bill number 386. Next, BTA Bill 414.
381. Bill number 1. Bill
386. Honorable.
Ba't 381 to? Ay.
On screen, it's 386 as well.
Ay, dito naman sa kopya ko, 381 naman.
Perhaps there was some typo.
O, 386. Kanina, tama siya. Ngayon, iba na. Huh?
Yeah.
386. Okay. What's the motion?
First, to direct the Honorable Secretariat to read first BTA Bill number 386.
The Secretariat is hereby directed to read Parliamentary Bill number 386. Secretariat.
BTA Parliament Bill number 386 entitled An Act Establishing a Comprehensive Special Education Service and Support Centers in Strategic Regional Hub in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, providing for interagency coordination, capacity building, contextualized and inclusive services, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes. Authors, Member of Parliament Abdul Karim Miswari, Nurreda Miswari, Randolph Parcasio, Romeo Sema, Saripuddin Chikiri, and Harun Abbas. Co-authors, Members of Parliament Hatimil Hassan, Don Mustafa Loom, Said Sheikh Ahmad Abbas, Mosber Alaudin, Ramon Piang Sr., Muhammad Kelly Antaw, Abrar Hataman, Amiruddin Gayak, Muhammad Yakub, Michael Mintimbang, Susana Nayatin, Kadil Sinulinding Jr., Roylin Mendoza, and Faisal Karon.
Floor Leader.
Thank you, Secretariat. With that, I move that the particular bill, BTA Parliament Bill number 386, be referred to the Committee on Basic Higher Technical Education as well as to the Committee on Finance Budget Management. So move.
There's a motion to refer Parliamentary Bill 386 to the Committee on Education, Basic Education, Higher Education, Technical Education. Ano po ba?
And
And
CFBM,
the
sir.
Committee on Finance and Budget and Management. There any second?
Honorable Presiding Officer, sorry to interrupt you. Before you to decide on the motion, may I move to recognize first the Honorable MP Nurreda Inda Miswari. My bad, my apology to the Honorable MP, Lady Legislator from Sulu. So move, Honorable Presiding Officer.
The Honorable MP Norida Miswari of Sulu and other areas in Mindanao.
Alhamdulillah.
You are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. Thank you, Floor Leader. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh,
Alaikum
everyone.
assalam.
Children with disabilities in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao encounter numerous and interconnected barriers to education and development. According to a 2020 report from the Philippine Statistics Authority, the number of children in BARM with functional difficulties exceeds 33,000. Despite ongoing efforts, a substantial portion of these children remain excluded from formal education or lack access to the comprehensive support services they require. Although some special education centers have been established in urban areas, their distribution is uneven, and quality and inclusivity of services vary significantly. Consequently, children from geographically isolated, conflict-affected, and indigenous communities experience persistent educational marginalization. Given this situation, there is an urgent need for a region-specific, culturally grounded, and equity-driven model of SPED service delivery. The proposed legislation, known as Comprehensive SPED Service and Support Centers Act of 2025, aims to address this need through a coordinated interministerial framework that provides inclusive, accessible, and responsive services for all CWDs across the 5 provinces and 3 cities of BARM. Unlike Parliament Bill number 255, which mandates the establishment of a single SPED center per municipality, this proposal takes a distinct approach by emphasizing human hub and spoke models. The CSSCs are envisioned not merely as instructional facilities, but as regional hubs for diagnostics, therapy, teacher training, family empowerment, and curriculum innovation tailored to the specific context of the Bangsamoro. Research published in esteemed peer-reviewed journals underscores the effectiveness of this approach. A 2021 study by Tan, Mansukani, and Lozada in the International Journal of Inclusive Education highlighted significant gaps in special education provision, particularly within diverse and conflict-sensitive contexts such as Mindanao. The authors recommended the establishment of localized, culturally sensitive education hubs supported by integrated interagency cooperation. Similarly, the Asia-Pacific Journal of Education posits that inclusive education is most sustainable when it is rooted in community involvement and contextualized to local cultural linguistic realities. These findings validate the bill's provisions for community-based special education units, outreach services, and curriculum contextualization. Importantly, this bill aligns with both global and national mandates. It is founded on the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which the Philippines ratified in 2008. Additionally, it supports the achievement of Sustainable Development Goal, SDG 4, which focuses on inclusive and equitable quality education, as well as SDG 10, aimed at reducing inequality. On a national level, it complements the Magna Carta for Persons with Disabilities, RA 7277, the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013, RA 10533, and the Inclusive Education Act of 2022, RA 11650. Regionally, the bill is coherent with the Bangsamoro Education Code, the Bangsamoro Development Plan 2023 to 2028, and the Bangsamoro Children's Rights Code. A significant strength of this measure is its focus on research, innovation, cultural responsiveness. CSSCs are designed not only to deliver services, but also to serve as hubs for action research, curriculum adaptation, and the development of assistive technologies. By incorporating indigenous knowledge and local languages into curriculum materials, this initiative aligns with the culturally responsive education framework outlined in the BARM Education Code. Moreover, the bill promotes the active involvement of parents and caregivers through the establishment of regional councils of parent leaders of children with disabilities, acknowledging their essential role as primary stakeholders in inclusive education. The CSSCs are also envisioned as disaster-resilient and conflict-sensitive institutions. Given the history of displacement and climate-induced emergencies in BARM, the bill mandates the integration of disability-inclusive disaster risk reduction, DRR, strategies within educational protocols. Additionally, the CSSCs will oversee centralized special education information referral systems aimed at consolidating accurate and real-time data on children with disabilities for effective planning, evaluation, and policy making. The absence of reliable data has long been recognized a systemic hurdle within the Philippine SPED landscape. So, the bill ultimately establishes pathways for lifelong learning and transition to work programs. In collaboration with the Ministry of Labor and Employment and private partners, comprehensive SPED service and support centers will implement vocational training, job coaching, and livelihood support initiatives aimed at ensuring that young children with disabilities are equipped for economic independence and full social integration. Thus, the Comprehensive SPED Service and Support Centers Act of 2025 represents a timely and transformative advancement toward achieving inclusive and rights-based education in the Bangsamoro region. It transcends mere pragmatic intervention, embodying a strategic policy commitment that aligns with the aspiration of the Bangsamoro autonomy, principles of inclusive peace building, and the global mandate to ensure no one is left behind. In light of the above, the immediate approval of this proposed measure is sincerely requested. Jazakumullahu khairan, wa billahi taufiq wal hidayah, wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alaikum assalam. Floor leader.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Thank you, MP Nareda Inda Miswari. Honorable Presiding Officer, I move that the particular bill number 386 be referred to the Committee on Basic Higher Technical Education and the Committee on Finance, Budget, and Management. So move.
There's a motion to refer Parliamentary Bill 386 to the Committee on Basic Higher and Technical Education and the Committee on Finance, Budget, and Management. Is there any second? Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Same is hereby approved. Floor leader.
Thank you, sir. May I now request that the Secretariat be directed to read Parliament Bill number 414. Thank you.
The Secretariat is directed to read Parliamentary Bill number 414 to include its title and author and co-authors.
BTA Parliament Bill number 414 entitled An Act Establishing a College Education Bridging Fund to support qualified students from low-income families in the Bangsamoro region, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes. Author, Member of Parliament Bahintan Ampatuan. Co-authors, Members of Parliament Siti Pahani, Uy Oyod, Khalid Haji Abdullah, Laisa Lamia, Suarto Ambuludto, Don Mustafa Loong, Rasul Ismael, Rasul Mitmug Jr., Okal Mitimbang, Chapar Apollo Mikael Matalam, Michael Mitimbang, Hatimil Hasan, Obaida Pakasam, Romeo Sema, Sulfikar Ali Bayam, Kadel Sinulinding Jr., Ahmad Abbas, Said Sheikh, Benjamin Loom, Alindato Pagayaw, Randolph Parcasio, Faisal Karon, Mosber Alauden, Amiruddin Gayak, Susana Nayatin, by Ali Karon, and Baileng Mantawel.
Floor leader.
Thank you, Secretariat. Thank you, Honorable Presiding Officer. At this point, may I move to recognize the Honorable Deputy Speaker, MP Baintan A. Ampatuan, to deliver her sponsorship or authorship speech for this. Thank you, sir.
The Honorable Dragon Lady of Maguindanao, Deputy Speaker Baintan Ampatuan.
Thank you, Acting Speaker, Floor Leader. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Auzubillahi minasyaitanirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Alaikum assalam.
At the outset, before I read my sponsorship speech, I'd like to give you a short background why we drafted this bill. Hindi kaila sa atin na maraming batang nangangailangan ng tulong para makatapos mag-aral. At kadalasan, itong mga bata na ito ay sumusulat sa atin or nagre-resort sa social media para makakuha ng tulong. And just very recently, I saw one post asking any help para lang sa kanyang requirements. I think there was this amount, 38,000. Nag-circulate yan sa social media. Yun lang yung kanyang requirements, 38,000. Para ma-comply yung kanyang requirements sa kanyang education. There was this one particular case that reached our office. Isang batang magpo-fourth year law student. Magpo-fourth year. Nanganganib na hindi na niya maituloy yung kaniyang pag-enroll sa fourth year kasi naputol kung whatever assistance she has or whatever source of finance she has. At ang kwento ay pumunta na lang siya sa Davao na kahit alam niyang hindi siya sigurado kung makapag-enroll siya. Basta pupunta na lang siya, nakakuha siya ng pamasahe, tumuloy siya ng Davao, pero while on the road, hindi niya alam kung makaka-enroll pa ba siya. Pero nag-iwan siya ng mga sulat sa iba't ibang offices ng MPs at isa yung opisina natin sa nasulatan. At naantig yung puso natin dahil hindi pa madali yung umabot sa punto na fourth year. Kasi yung alam ko yung fourth year pag law student ka, halos review na lang yan. No, halos review na practically survive na yung bata at magagraduate na siya and onwards magiging abogado. So, i-share ko yung request ng bata doon sa group chat ng MPs. Alhamdulillah kasi tumulong yung mga kapwa nating mga MPs. At I take this opportunity to inform all those who have helped the student na mga MPs at hindi rin tumulong, no? Na we got some information na yung bata ay mag-graduate na. Mag-graduate na ngayong closing itong graduation ng Ateneo de Davao. So alhamdulillah at nabigyan tayo ng chance na maging bridge. Kaya ang title ng bill ay Bridging Support Fund, no? So ito yung kwento ng bill na ito na marami pang katulad ng cases na yon ang alam natin na nangangailangan ng mga bata. So I hope that kung hindi man ito maitawid ngayon, sa regular parliament, sana yung mga mananalo, mas maganda kung kasama kami sa Manalo dahil susuportahan natin itong panukalang batas na ito. Inshallah. Okay. Mr. Speaker, esteemed colleagues in this August Parliament, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Once again, good afternoon. It is with humility and deep sense of responsibility that I sponsor proposed BTA Bill number 414 entitled An Act Establishing a College Education Bridging Fund to support qualified students from low-income families in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes. For many of our people, the journey has been shaped by conflict, poverty, and limited access to opportunity. While we have meaningful progress, many Bangsamoro students still struggle to complete their education not because of lack of ability, but because of financial hardship. Article 9, Section 2 of the Bangsamoro Organic Law mandates the Bangsamoro government to establish, maintain, and support a complete and integrated system of quality education that is responsive to the needs and aspirations of our people. This is not only a legal duty, but a moral obligation. Education is not just a personal achievement. For the Bangsamoro, it is a pathway to dignity, empowerment, and lasting peace. Our struggle has always been about securing a better future, and that future depends on an educated and capable generation. Yet the reality remains stark. Data from the 2023 Labor Force Survey released by the Philippine Statistics Authority shows that the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, or BARM, has the lowest tertiary education attainment rate in the country, with only 9.6% of the population aged 25 years and older having a complete college degree, far below the national average of 24.9%. The same report also notes that the BARM continues to register one of the highest poverty incidences in the Philippines, with over 50% of the population living below the poverty threshold of 2021. These figures reflect the clear link between poverty and limited access to higher education. While tuition in public colleges and universities is covered under the Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education Act, or RA 10931, many Bangsamoro students still struggle with incidental expenses, such as but not limited to transportation, dormitory accommodations, food, learning materials, and internet connectivity, factors that often lead to a dropout or delayed graduation. This proposed measure seeks to establish a college education bridging fund to provide financial assistance to qualified students from low-income families in the Bangsamoro region. The fund is envisioned as a supplemental support mechanism for students who have already completed at least third year in college, but at risk of dropping out due to financial constraints. It aims to help them complete their degree and unlock greater opportunities for productive employment, empowerment, and participation in the regional development. Mr. Speaker, by providing this assistance for essential expenses, we ensure that financial hardship will not only stand in the way of completing their education. When we help a student finish college, we do more than change one life. We uplift families, we strengthen communities, and we build a more resilient Bangsamoro. Furthermore, this measure affirms our commitment under the Constitution and the BOL to make education accessible and to uplift the most vulnerable. Mr. Speaker, the passage of this bill will contribute to building a more equitable and educated Bangsamoro Autonomous Region. Mr. Speaker, investing in education is investing in peace and progress. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I humbly ask this Parliament to support this measure. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Alaikum assalam. Floor leader.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Deputy Speaker Baintan Ampatuan. I now move that the particular bill number 414 be referred to the Committee on Basic Higher Technical Education as well as to the Committee on Finance, Budget, and Management. So moved, Honorable Presiding Officer.
There's a motion to refer Parliament Bill number 414 to the Committee on
CBHTE as well as PFBM.
Committee on Basic Higher and Technical Education and the Committee on Finance, Budget, and Management. Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Same is hereby approved. Floor leader.
Thank you, sir. Now, next on the list is BTA Bill number 447. May I request that the Secretariat be directed to read the same?
Secretariat directed to read Parliament Bill number 447 to include the title, author, and co-authors.
BTA Parliament Bill number 447 entitled An Act Amending Relevant Provision of Bangsamoro Autonomy Act number 13 relating to the Ministry of Transportation and Communications, establishing the Bangsamoro Transportation and Communications Code, institutionalizing its sectoral offices, providing for the development of the Bangsamoro Transportation and Communications Master Plan, and for other purposes. Authors, Members of Parliament, Romeo Sema, Zulfikar Ali Bayam, Abdul Karim Miswari, Randolph Parcasio, Saripudin Chikiri, Nur Reda Miswari, John Anthony Lim, Nabil Tan, and Jose Lorena. Co-authors, Members of Parliament, Susana Nayatin, Kadel Sinulinding Jr., Mosber Alauden, and Faisal Karun.
Floor leader.
Thank you, sir, Secretariat. Thank you, Presiding Officer. At this point, may I move to recognize the Honorable MP Romeo K. Sema to deliver his authorship speech for this particular bill. So moved.
The Honorable Romeo Sema is recognized to deliver his sponsorship speech.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, Presiding Chair, and the Pro Reader. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Chief Minister Abdurrahman Makakwa, Honorable Speaker Muhammad El Sakub, the Honorable Presiding Chair, Deputy Speaker Nabil Tan, and the Pro Reader, John Anthony Lim, esteemed colleagues of the Bangsamoro Parliament, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Before I begin, allow me to express my profound gratitude to colleagues of this Parliament for the trust and confidence you have bestowed upon me through my designation as one of the new Deputy Speakers of this Parliament. I am deeply honored and humbly accept this responsibility with a firm commitment to serve with integrity, diligence, and dedication. I thank each and everyone for your support. I assure this honorable august body that I will do my utmost effort and dedication to uphold the dignity of this institution and faithfully discharge the duties entrusted to me. With your indulgence, Mr. Speaker, I now proceed to the matter at hand. Today, I rise on a matter of privilege to sponsor and deliver my remarks on BTA Bill number 447, otherwise known as the Bangsamoro Transportations and Communication Code, as authored by yours truly, along with my dedicated members of the Parliament, Mr. MP Zulfikar Ali S. Bayam, MP Abdul Karim T. Miswari, MP Attorney Randolph C. Parcasio, MP Sarapudin D. Chikiri, MP Noreda I. Miswari, MP Attorney John Anthony Lim, MP Nabil Tan, MP Attorney Jose Lorena. Transportations and communications are not merely sectors of governance. They are the lifelines of our communities. They determine how our people move, how our goods are delivered, and how our voices are heard across the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. They are, in many ways, the front lines of development connecting our islands, municipalities, and provinces, and enabling exclusive economic growth. However, as it stands, our current system is confronted with a significant challenge: the absence of a unified and concurrent regulatory framework. This has led to fragmented authority, operational inefficiencies, and constraints in the effective delivery of services to our Bangsamoro constituents. This is precisely the gap that BTA Bill number 447 seeks to address. This proposed measure establishes the Bangsamoro Transportations and Communications Code, an integrated legal and regulatory framework, and that will fully institutionalize and strengthen the Ministry of Transportations and Communications. It clearly defines the powers, functions, and regulatory authority of the ministry and its sectoral offices, ensuring that each component is equipped with both the administrative capacity and technical competence necessary to perform its mandate effectively. More importantly, this bill is firmly anchored on the powers granted to the Bangsamoro government under Republic Act number 11054, or the Bangsamoro Organic Law. It operationalizes the authority of the Bangsamoro government. The grant franchises issue permits, registered operators, and exercise quasi-judicial powers over transportations and communications within our jurisdictions, among others. By doing so, these measures does not exist in isolation. It harmonizes our regional authority with the Constitution, national laws, and existing regulatory systems, thereby strengthening coordination with national government agencies while asserting the autonomy granted to the Bangsamoro. This bill likewise recognizes that transportations and communications are not only essential public services, but are also critical economic drivers. Thus, it introduced mechanisms that will enhance the fiscal and institutional capacity of the ministry, along it to generate, retain, and reinvest revenues into modernization efforts, safely systems, and improve regulatory functions. Through this, we ensure that our systems are not only functional, but sustainable. Ultimately, these measures envisions a Bangsamoro where transportation is safe, reliable, and accessible, where communication systems are efficient and far-reaching, and where no community, no matter how remote, is left disconnected from opportunity and progress. This is more than a regulatory reform. This is a commitment to integrations, to modernizations, and to inclusive development. In view of the foregoing, Mr. Speaker, I earnestly seek the support of this honorable body for the immediate passage of BTA Bill number 447, or also known as the Bangsamoro Transportation and Communication Code. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Lord Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Presiding Officer. Thank you, Deputy Speaker Romeo Sema. By the way, my congratulations on your recent designation or election as a Deputy Speaker. Well deserved, sir. With that, I move that the Parliament Bill number
447.
447 be referred to. Ano yung copy ko? For a while. To the Committee on Transportation and Communication. So move, Honorable Presiding Officer.
There's a motion to refer to the Committee on Transportation and Information. Parliamentary Bill number 447. Duly seconded. Is there any objection? There hears none, say Mr. I approve. Floor leader.
Thank you, Honorable Presiding Officer. We have two more items on the list, particularly Roman numeral number 7 on unfinished business. First on the list is Committee Report number 175 for the continuation of interpellation on Bangsamoro Revenue Code. Next in the list is Committee Report number 176 pertaining to Parliament Bill numbers 282 and 276 on the granting government officials and employees special leave to perform pilgrimage. At this point, may I move that the Honorable Deputy the Chairman of the Committee on Ways and Means, the Honorable Attorney
Munder.
Abdul Hakim Munder, be recognized.
The Honorable Abdul Hakim Mundir is recognized to deliver.
No, he will be defending
He will be
the...
a continuation of
Of the
interpellation. That's the
interpellation.
parliamentary status.
Yes, Honorable Presiding Officer.
Okay.
First on the list of interpellator who has manifested, the Honorable Baintan Deputy Speaker. Move to recognize her.
The Honorable Baintan Apatuan.
Since Deputy Speaker Baintan Apatuan is not yet around, may I move that the Honorable Deputy Floor Leader, Attorney Nagib Sinarimbo, be recognized to finish his interpellation.
Yung magiting na Deputy Pro Leader, Attorney Najib Sinarimbo is recognized.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Floor Leader. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I will just wrap up on the general principles, and I hope to be back on the specific provisions of the Revenue Code, so that we can allow some of our colleagues to also proceed with their interpellations on the general principles before we proceed with the individual provisions of the bill. I recall, Mr. Speaker, that the last issue that we discussed with the good Deputy Speaker Joe Loreda was on the issue of how much income would we generate if we proceed with the enactment of the Revenue Code, and that the income we were interested in would be the income that the region would generate out of the new taxes, revenues, and other impositions that will be made applicable as a result of the potential enactment of the code. And from what the good Deputy Speaker shared with us, it is from the ranges 7.3 billion in the first year up to 10.24 billion on the sixth year. That's the range. And I think the last question that I asked, and which we are all interested in, would be how much is the cost of administering the Revenue Code, which would potentially give us the income of 7.3 billion. How much would be the cost for implementing the revenue code?
The sponsor may answer.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. I think although the cost of the revenue in implementing this revenue is to be ascertained. However, in this representation that the here is the projected cost as total by the Minister of Finance. The projected cost in the year 2025, the total projected cost is 25,857,323, and then in 2026 is 445,553,360, and the total in the 2025 and 2026 is 71,410, Mr. Speaker.
So if we total the cost, meaning if we deduct the cost of how much would be required to run the code as against the income, we would still have a net income,
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
which is a good, which would place us in a good situation, because if we are collecting X amount of money and it will cost us so much money, the question, of course, is that would it be better to collect the taxes or not to collect it if we are spending so much money in collecting the taxes? So I'm happy to learn from the distinguished sponsor that we would still earn a net out of the cost that we will have to spend when we administer the revenue code. I'm just hoping that the numbers really are reflective of, one, the projected income generated out of the taxes, new taxes that will be imposed from the revenue code, and the cost of administering it. But we will take the answer of the distinguished sponsor as the mathematical computation based on data available to the distinguished sponsor. I'll move a bit on the preliminary provisions of the code, and this one pertains to, so we have different tiers of government in the region, starting from barangay to municipalities to cities and provinces. And these tiers of government under the Local Government Code 7160 are authorized to collect taxes, fees, and charges. Are these taxes, fees, and charges that are being proposed under the revenue code, which will be imposed by the regional government, similar to the taxes being imposed by the different tiers of local government units?
Mr. Speaker, the tax that are being imposed by this bill are not similar to the taxes and fees that are being imposed by the local government code, Mr. Speaker.
So in fine, whatever taxes, fees, and charges are now currently imposed by LGUs pursuant to 7160, these taxes will no longer be reflected as taxes or additional taxes, fees, and charges being imposed by the region in the revenue code.
Mr. Speaker, there are taxes that aside from those taxes that are imposed in the local government code, which are already imposed, there are taxes in the bill that are additional taxes to the local government code, Mr. Speaker.
So in fine, we will be taxing similar transactions. But this time around, it will be an imposition at the regional level, while at the same time, LGUs are also authorized to impose certain taxes on a similar transaction.
Mr. Speaker, not all the taxes that are included in the revenue code are similar to the taxes that are being implemented under the local government code. For example, Mr. Speaker, the taxes on the real property tax, which are being imposed in the local government code, in the Bangsamoro revenue code, it only imposes if there is no local taxation in the certain or specific local government unit, Mr. Speaker.
So provided, is it my understanding, distinguished sponsor, that provided the LGUs are imposing the taxes, fees, and charges authorized under the local government code, the region will no longer impose these similar taxes that are imposed by LGUs?
Mr. Speaker, not necessarily, Mr. Speaker. However, if there are conflicting provision in this pending bill against the local government code or other local taxes, we can consider, Mr. Speaker, to harmonize this existing tax laws and the Bangsamoro revenue code, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, distinguished sponsor, for clarifying that, because, Mr. Speaker, if the idea is to impose new taxes, fees, and charges, apart from those that are already imposed by LGUs, then in effect, we are setting taxes that are completely different from what are already existing, both at the level of the LGUs and potentially from national government. And this would certainly clarify the provisions and the administration of the tax law in the region, because we will no longer be imposing taxes that are already imposed by LGUs or otherwise imposed by national government. With regards to national government, that is clear enough, because in the negotiations as well as in the BOL, we've clarified national taxes imposed under the NIRC, National Internal Revenue Code. We are not authorized to impose that, with the exception of 3. What I think needs clarification is if we intend to impose taxes that are already imposed by local government units, because there would be issues of jurisdiction and potentially, technically, double taxation, although it can easily be justified as, although these are imposed on similar transactions, probably same rate, but imposed by different jurisdiction or taxing authority. But just the same, the net effect of that would be to burden the constituents of the region more than the constituents of any other region, because in administrative regions, there are no other taxing authority apart from LGUs and the national government. So if we decide to impose the same taxes in our jurisdiction, it would definitely increase the cost of doing business in the region. If the distinguished sponsor may kindly enlighten the Parliament on this.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I agree with my colleague, the Deputy Floor Leader, Mr. Speaker, that there will be
more burden to the constituent, Mr. Speaker. However, Mr. Speaker, the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region is Muslim Mindanao has also the power to enact taxes as provided in the BOL, Mr. Speaker. And there are also, as I said, Mr. Speaker, a while ago, that we could harmonize this this bill with the previous or the already enacted tax laws, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, distinguished sponsor. Mr. Speaker, we welcome the readiness of the distinguished sponsor to look at clarifying further the different impositions with respect to, so like for instance, tax on quarry and other resources. These are essentially under the local government code given to LGUs. The national government does not impose tax on that. In particular, it is given to a province. And how do we intend to impose a tax on this particular item in the proposed revenue code?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
And so there will have to be very clear delineation between the two jurisdictions, our region and that of the provincial government. Would that be a fair statement, distinguished sponsor?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. However, these two taxing authority has different jurisdiction with regard to this particular tax, Mr. Speaker.
So we will make a distinction as to which extraction of this resource would be subject to an imposition by the local government unit, in particular a province, and that of the region in the provisions of the code.
As I understand the code, Mr. Speaker, there will no distinction as to the specific tax, but as provided in the code, it is an additional tax to the certain taxation, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, I would note that, and I would go into a more detailed interpolation on this specific provision, Mr. Speaker, because this would obviously be an additional burden to our constituents. So if we are taxing, if the province is taxing the extraction of these resources, quarry for instance, and then you have another regional government that imposes taxes on this, as I was saying, this would increase the cost of doing business in our region, and would probably result in disincentive to potential investors in the region. But I'll hold it off, and I will come back to that when we deal with the specific provisions of the code already. The other question I have is that in the scope and sources of revenue, in particular Article 2, the code talks of a levy, which is a technical term in taxation. Would the distinguished sponsor agree with us that when we speak of levy, we essentially deal with two items in taxation? That is tax rate and tax base.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
And so when we say we will levy taxes on very specific items, for instance, capital gains, documentary stamp tax, donors, and estate taxes, if we levy taxes on this, we are in effect saying that we will determine, one, the tax rate and the tax base for this.
Yes, yes, Mr. Speaker.
And so, on a particular item, for instance, capital gains tax, the tax imposed on a transaction involving capital, can be a stock or a real estate. Are we saying we will, for instance, determine the tax rate for capital gains?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. I must admit that in the code, it was not provided the detailed rate and tax base as you mentioned. And to be candid, Mr. Speaker, I'm also aware of that, and we will amenable during the period of interpellation to consider this issue with regard to the levy, as you mentioned, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. In fact, I'm very happy, Mr. Speaker, that in the provision of the code, at least in the introductory part, we are asserting that we will exercise our taxing power to levy, very particular, which is a power granted to a body like the Parliament to determine the tax rate and determine what sort of transaction or which areas would we be imposing a tax. In effect, tax base. If we are doing that, for instance, I would be very interested in seeing provisions, and I would love the distinguished sponsor to walk us through as we go into the details of the code. If, for instance, capital gains tax, are we proposing, for instance, to determine the rate by lowering the rate of capital gains in the region? For instance, if we lower the tax rate for capital gains and we impose a lower rate from that of a national capital gains now imposed under the NIRC, I'm sure the transfer of or transactions involving the transfer of stocks in corporations in the whole of the country, they would begin inquiring, can we pay the capital gains tax in the Bangsamoro if it is lower? You can just imagine the impact of that with all transactions involving stocks in the stock market of the country being brought into the region and us being able to impose and collect these taxes. Would that be possible? And is that what is being envisioned in the Revenue Code, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, although in the code it was provided the rate of the capital gains tax, and I think the detail of this rate can be ascertained in the rules and regulation of this code, Mr. Speaker.
I would have to respectfully disagree with the distinguished sponsor, because capital gains tax, the tax rate for that is already fixed in the National Internal Revenue Code. And if we are imposing a different rate, we will have to fix it in the code itself, because that would be an undue delegation of legislative power to whatever body in the region that we will delegate that authority, because that is essentially legislative. And my submission is that it cannot be redelegated to another authority in the region. We'll have to fix it. If the capital gains in the national government is this much, and you're imposing capital gains which would probably be lower than the capital gains imposition at the national level, then we'll have to fix it in the code.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I would like to agree with the gentleman that there would be a undue delegation of power. That's why as I've said earlier, that we are amenable to this provision and consider it during the period of amendment, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that clarification. The other one that I'm interested, this would be my last question on the general principles, Mr. Speaker, is that I noticed that in some of the provisions, and in particular, for instance, and I think this would be a running theme in the whole Revenue Code, Section 4, in particular, Paragraph M, and I quote, tax on ordinary stones, sand, gravel, earth, and other quarry resources as defined by the provisions of the NIRC as amended, extracted from public lands or from beds of sea, lakes, rivers, streams, creeks, and other public waters within its territorial jurisdiction, other revenue sources as may be provided by law. These two provisions, apart from our earlier discussion on what items may now be taxed by both the region and the LGUs, the more important issue here is you have an NIRC that determines some of the rates that we may impose. And apparently from the way we frame the provision in the Revenue Code, it would appear that some of these provisions would be, in terms of rate, for instance, or even tax base, we will be dependent on the National Internal Revenue Code, which is a national legislation and by its very nature, subject to amendments and changes by Congress. And because some of our provisions in the code are linked, like tax rate, for instance, to some of those that are fixed in the NIRC, the effect of that is when amendments are introduced at the national level on national laws, such as the National Internal Revenue Code, it will have an impact on the Revenue Code. Is that a fair assessment, distinguished sponsor?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, and I think I agree with you that some of the provisions in this code were patterned in the NIRC, Mr. Speaker.
I agree, Mr. Speaker, I agree that some of these are patterned after the provisions of the National Internal Revenue Code. But even more important, and this one goes into the very heart of the nature of our legislative power and the laws that we enact. If the provisions of the Bangsamoro Revenue Code are dependent on the provisions of the National Revenue Code or other legislations, if changes are made by Congress on a national law, it will impact the legislation that we have, such as the Bangsamoro Revenue Code. The net effect of that is what I would call an indirect amendment of the legislations made by the Parliament. Are we, in effect, agreeing to a situation where legislations by the Parliament would be indirectly amended by the national legislature?
Mr. Speaker, although some of the provisions of this code were patterned after the NIRC, does not necessarily mean that it would be it will be indirect amendment, Mr. Speaker, so long as these provisions are fully or effective in the BARM, Mr. Speaker, and this provision has its effect in the BARM and so long as this provision has served its purpose in the BARM, and I don't think there will be a need to amend it also when the NIRC or some of its provision has been amended, Mr. Speaker.
It's not a question of specific amendments being made by Congress. I think the more important point to consider is that when we link the provisions of the Revenue Code to the provisions of national laws, and in particular the National Internal Revenue Code, the danger there is that even if we don't want to amend our regional revenue code, but because the provisions are linked to a national legislation, once Congress made the changes on the National Internal Revenue Code, it will indirectly amend the revenue code of the BARM. That I think is an important issue to consider. Because if we have laws that can be amended not just by this parliament, then we will have a very unstable regional legislation. In some other jurisdictions, Mr. Termination, like in Northern Ireland and in the Scottish Parliament, this is probably the reason why they've asserted that there would be what they call a civil convention. That is, once a power has been granted the Scottish Parliament, the mother of all parliaments, that is the UK Parliament, the most powerful parliament in the world, because they don't have a constitution. It's a common law country. Even that most powerful parliament, legislature in the world, it defers to the judgment of the Scottish Parliament. So they will not legislate at the UK Parliament the powers or the items that have been delegated to the Scottish Parliament. They call it the Civil Convention. And part of that really is to stabilize legislation at our level. Because my fear is that if we link many of the important provisions of the Revenue Code of the BARM, then the changes where we link it, and that is the provision of the NIRC, which is a national legislation, they can change that anytime. And because our provisions are linked to it, the provisions that are linked to the NIRC would necessarily be amended as a result of the amendments made by Congress. And so my sense is that we need to find a way of stabilizing our regional legislation. Because if that is the case, then we will have difficulty keeping up with amendments and changes at the national level, even if we don't want the changes in the region, because it will disturb the administration of the taxes at the regional level. And more important than that, it will reduce the power of the very nature of the power granted this parliament, which is why I think it is an important issue that we will have to discuss as we go through the provisions. That my sense, Mr. Speaker, is that at this stage, the distinguished sponsor and our colleagues needs to come up with a very strong position, a consensus among us. How do we ensure that our legislations are stable and not indirectly amended by national legislations? That's my sense, distinguished sponsor. And I would be very interested in hearing the position of the distinguished sponsor in this particular issue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I understand the position of the good gentleman from Cotabato City, Mr. Speaker, that there will be a time that when there are changes in the NIRC, there will be an indirect amendment to this code. However, Mr. Speaker, we have also this fiscal autonomy in the BOL, and so long as I have said, so long as these provisions are effective, so I don't think there is no issue on it, Mr. Speaker. But for the as you have said, Mr. Speaker, that we are in danger of our the future of the stability of the tax code, then we can consider it this some of the provisions during the period of amendment, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, distinguished sponsor. As earlier indicated, I will interpolate further after our colleagues would have made their interpolation on the general principles. So thank you, Floor Leader. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Floor Leader Attorney Nagib Sinarimbo. Next to interpolate is the Honorable Deputy Speaker Ishak Mastura. Move to recognize the gentleman.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May I be recognized, Mr. Speaker?
The Honorable Isaac Mastura is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At the outset, I will just also, like our good colleague from Cotabato City, interpolate on the framework, meaning on the general idea and the principles of the taxation or the tax law that we are trying to pass for the transition period. So first, I'll go to current events because I think we should be aware of current events. So just this afternoon, I was going through the newsprint, and the Financial Times had this headline: Goldman Sachs raises oil price forecast as war disruption drags on. So analysts expect Brent crude to trade at about $90 in fourth quarter, up from the earlier $80 prediction. Right now, Brent crude, which is the benchmark, the global benchmark for oil prices, is $107 per barrel. So, as you know, the war in Iran is still ongoing, although they have a ceasefire, but the ceasefire is actually just a pause in the possible escalation again of the war in the Middle East. Because there is a blockade by Iran, but there is a counter blockade by the United States Navy. And in the international law, as you are aware, a blockade is war. It's a cause for war. So in this case, it's not a hot war just like what we had experienced, but it's neither a cold war. It's a war that is, where in each side is trying to contain the capacities of each side, of the other side rather. So that means that we will continue to have oil prices that are either rising or will continue to stay at a high level. So, Mr. Speaker, don't you think that because of this scenario, wherein the future seems to be high oil prices will continue for the foreseeable future without resolution of the crisis in the Strait of Hormuz, that we should pass this law at this point in time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, Mr. Speaker, I believe that this law should be passed should be immediately passed. Although there are circumstances that happening in the world, like the war, and I think and I believe that this unfortunate event will eventually come to an end, Mr. Speaker, and the world will back to normal, Mr. Speaker.
Are you aware, Mr. Speaker, that the Philippine Congress already passed a law authorizing the President to reduce our fuel excise taxes?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
And you are aware, of course, that this law is now been implemented.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Can you tell us which particular fuels have been affected or been reduced by the President, Mr. Speaker, if you know?
I cannot specifically mention it, Mr. Speaker, but this excise tax has already, I believe, has already been implemented, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, in particular, I think they reduced the kerosene excise tax for kerosene, and there's also talk about the LPG prices, but the liquefied petroleum prices. But there has been no rollback of the excise taxes for oil, in particular fuel oil like diesel and gasoline, right, Mr. Speaker?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
So that means that we are still in the crisis mode, and as you know, the oil is an input into production. That's why we are now having problems with inflation, right?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Now, we are going into a period of El Nino. The forecast of Pag-asa is by May, June, July, Pag-asa will, rather El Nino will start to be felt in the country. So don't you think that passing this law will again impose hardships on our people?
Mr. Speaker, I admit that this it would impose a hardship to our people, Mr. Speaker. But however, Mr. Speaker, there is no perfect time to pass this bill. But it is necessary to pass this bill as also not only Mr. Speaker for revenue raising, but most importantly, Mr. Speaker, the right to self-determination and the fiscal autonomy of the bar, Mr. Speaker.
I will point out to you that analysts have stated that the longer the vital oil channel, which is the Strait of Hormuz, doesn't reopen, traders say the more consumption is going to have to recalibrate lower to align with supply that's dropped at least 10%. And for that to happen, people will have to buy less, either through prices they can't afford or government intervention to force consumption down. 1 billion barrels of supply loss is already all but guaranteed, more than double the emergency inventories that governments released not long after the conflict began at the end of February. Buffers are being used up fast, helping to keep a lid on oil prices for now. But with the closure now on its 9th week, demand destruction that started in less obvious sectors like petrochemicals in Asia is quietly spreading to everyday markets the world over. So this means that there is really a fear that there will be a slowdown in the global economy, and that with the prices still remaining high in terms of oil, the economy will slow down. So with a slowing down economy, don't you think it's inappropriate for us to pass a law that will add burden, more impositions, more adjustments for our people, especially our business sector, just as the crisis is reaching its point wherein will not just be facing the crisis on the oil price, but also on the El Nino, that is the weather, the climate crisis, wherein El Nino, as you know, is the period of drought. Now, during the period of drought, normally you have to use more energy inputs. So what does the energy inputs entail? You have to use more electricity, more power. You'll have to source water from outside the area because you'll have to transport it. You'll have to put more fertilizer. And by the way, fertilizer is coming from oil. So all this will compound, and just as we're going to hit this crisis, you will pass the law on the revenue code. So isn't that counterintuitive?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I understand
Or counterproductive even?
I understand the sentiment of the good gentleman, Mr. Speaker, and we are also sensitive to the economic situation, Mr. Speaker. And our priority, Mr. Speaker, is with regard to this revenue code, is the progressive taxation, Mr. Speaker, that we tax based on the ability of the taxpayer to pay, Mr. Speaker, and we also provide some exemptions and also to rate some the rates of the marginalized and the basic goods, Mr. Speaker.
Now, if you are familiar, do you know if how much does the BARM actually contribute to the Philippine economy? Recently, the Philippine Statistics Office released a number of statistics and data points. And are you aware of this? And if you know, and you have managed to go into their records, if the BARM is actually contributing much to the Philippine economy?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'm quite aware, but I'm not focused on the. I believe the BARM has less contribution in economy in the Philippines compared to our neighboring regions and other regions, Mr. Speaker.
Do you have a figure, Mr. Speaker? If not, I am willing to provide.
I think, Mr. Speaker, yes, Mr. Speaker, can you provide us to the figure of this?
So, thank you, Mr. Speaker. The BARM since 2023 only provided a contribution of 1.2%. That's in 2023. In 2024, it provided a contribution of 1.1%. And in 2025, that's last year, 1.1%. And while this year we grew at 5%, or rather 2025 we grew at 5%, our contribution to the Philippine economy has not moved at all. So that means we are the lowest in terms of contribution to the economic activity, the GDP of the Philippines as a whole. So now, when you look at that kind of figure, that we can barely or practically negligible contribution to the Philippine economy in terms of the amount, then now you want us to tax our own people when we have not generated enough economic activity to generate the taxes. Isn't it more prudent for us to have more investment, more economic activity, and increase or widen the tax base before we impose these kinds of revenue measures?
Mr. Speaker, I understand that the increase or the tax of the contribution of the BARM to the Philippine economy is very minimal, Mr. Speaker. However, Mr. Speaker, we are positive that in coming years it will increase a lot the Philippine economy, and I think it would be better to the business economy or to the investment business sectors rather if we pass this law, because we could protect them based on the principle of the symbiotic relationship, because the bank will specifically aid to this sector, Mr. Speaker.
So the premise that you're saying is that these taxes will not impede or will not prevent the farm's contribution to increase, which I think is a bit how would I say it, illogical, because taxes actually, as you know, is a drag on business. No, that's why in the United States there is always that debate between the Democrats and the Republicans, and the Republicans are always saying lower or cut taxes. But in our case, it seems that we are doing this revenue measure simply because it's mandated by the Bangsamoro Organic Law. And yet, we are appointed, we are here in this parliament to look at the welfare of our people. So, if we are only fulfilling our duty on the basis of bureaucratic imperative, then we are not actually doing what is good for our people, because we are just driven or going through the motions of having an a revenue code passed simply because it's there in the law. So there should be a logic to it why we are passing the law, especially at this point in time when we know that we are in a crisis situation. So can you give me justifications why this law must be passed at this particular point in time when it seems that it will not serve the welfare of our people?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. This law should be passed not to add more burden to our constituent. As autonomous, we need this law to be passed for the future of the Bangsamoro, because even if we are autonomous and we don't have this revenue code, it would be difficult for us to sustain our this institution, since in the future we should be independent enough, not relying more on the national government, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, do you have a figure on how much the BIR collected in our area, in the BARM, for 2025? I think this was previously asked, but I'd like to ask again the question just so that I can highlight some issues with regard to the figure.
Mr. Speaker, may I ask the Deputy Speaker to to answer on this question, Mr. Speaker, because I don't have the specific figure on how much the BIR collected in the previous year, Mr. Speaker.
I would like to reserve that question because that's very relevant. I don't have the figure, that's why I'm asking you, Mr. Speaker. But in any case, I think the point that I am driving at is we cannot even have a baseline with regard to the taxes that are being collected in a region. And here we are already passing a revenue code when we are not even sure how much or if we really have the tax base for this kind of revenue code. And I would like to compare it, for example, to the tax collection during the ARM. So do we have any comparison in terms of the taxes collected during ARM and the BARM period?
Mr. Speaker, I have here a computation of the how much was the revenues collected during the using the ARM revenue code, Mr. Speaker. Just to mention, Mr. Speaker, in year 2000, the total tax collected, 2019, the tax collected is 663,600. And the year 2020, Mr. Speaker, the total tax collected, Mr. Speaker, was 378,507,814, Mr. Speaker. In the year 2021, the total tax collected was 327,841,201, Mr. Speaker. In the year 2022, the tax collected was 517,973,616. In the year 2023, the tax collected was 531,219,774. In the year 2024, the tax collected was 505,159,476. In the year 2025, the tax collected was 505,854,883, Mr. Speaker.
So I will just ask this again. I'll do some more research. But if my memory serves me, I think during the ARM period, we reached 1 billion tax collection. So now it seems that it's been consistent for a number of years now during the BARM period that the tax collection has been half, meaning cut into half since the time of the BARM. Because since the time of the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao, wherein we reached at least 1 billion. So now we are stuck at 500 million, and it seems that that shows that either we lack the tax base, we have an efficient collection, or simply we don't have the structure to really generate the taxes that we need for the region. Because right now, there are two revenue districts collecting taxes in the BARM. And that's the Revenue District Office for Region 12, and the Revenue District Office for Region 9. For the longest time, we've been asking for a single revenue district for the BARM to collect all the taxes in the BARM. But there is a pushback resistance from the BIR, Bureau of Internal Revenue, simply because they said there is not enough tax base, meaning not enough taxes to collect. So that means if they were going to have a revenue district office separate for the BIR, just for the BARM, they would not be able to answer for their administrative cost and even to set a target So, compared to the other revenue district, we will suffer so much in comparison. So that's why now we are pushing for a revenue code when we cannot even collect the existing taxes. And in fact, the BARM under the BOL has been given a very big privilege. And what's that? We were given the privilege to collect 100%, or rather to get the whole tax collection share of both the national government and the BARM government. Because under the BOL, it should be 70-30. 70 to BARM, 30 for the national government. But for the next 10 years, since the beginning of the BARM, we are supposed to get 100%. So if our 500 million revenue from the national taxes is 100% already, you can already see, Mr. Speaker, that we are only able to tax. That's the limit of taxation in the BARM, the 500 million. That's the whole tax already.
Mr. Speaker, I stand corrected that what was I mentioned a while ago is millions, but it is billions, Mr. Speaker. I stand corrected, Mr. Speaker.
Billions, what do you mean by 5 billion? The 500 million is actually 5 billion or what?
No, Mr. Speaker, what I was mentioned a while ago is hundreds of billions, but I stand corrected because it is billions, Mr. Speaker. The tax collected during those years, Mr. Speaker.
No, I'm asking in particular, Mr. Speaker, the annual tax collected. And you said it's 500 million. And I think it's appropriate. If I remember our budget law, because we include it in our projection, no? I think we included it in our Bangsamoro Autonomy, the General Appropriations Act for the Bangsamoro. We include the projected income from those 100% collected taxes in the BARM. And if I remember, it's around 500 million. Of course, I stand corrected if it is now also 1 billion. So may I know the figure, Mr. Speaker, the annual figure for the taxes collected in the BARM?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. As of 2025, the BIR has yet to release the detailed breakdown of the each year of the annual income. But based on the 5 billion, Mr. Speaker, as of July 2025, we have collected 250 million, Mr. Speaker.
I'm quite confused because the figure that you're citing is the cumulative, probably the 5 billion. But I'm only asking for the annual tax collection. The annual tax collection from not 2025, because you said it's still being consolidated. I'm asking, for example, for the years 2024, 23, 22, 21. So we have a general idea. That's why I'm just basing my questions on my own knowledge during the budget deliberations and projections we have in the General Appropriations Act for the Bangsamoro in terms of the revenues that we are anticipating. So, to my memory, it's 500. So, please correct me if that is really the figure based on the submission of the BIR to the BARM or even the DBM, whichever agency submitted to the BARM.
Mr. Speaker, I think the Minister of the Finance can answer that correctly, and I think he will be here tomorrow, and it's most...
Okay, so we will reserve that question. I will move on, Mr. Speaker. Today, they released a figure from the Philippine Philippine Statistics Authority about the GDP of the regions, no, Mindanao regions. So Davao region has a GDP of 1,137.8 billion. But this is actually more than the billion figure. Maybe it's already trillion, no? The Northern Mindanao has 1,095.2 billion. Soc-Sargen has 576.9 billion. Zamboanga Peninsula has 527.3 billion. Caraga has 383.7 billion. And BARM has 266.5 billion as gross development product. So that's the measure or metric of our economic activity. On this score, I think I will reserve my question. I'm just leaving it for you as we have reached the time. So I think we ran out of time. So I'm just presenting this to you that so that tomorrow we can have further interpellation on the economic growth of the BARM as I have presented to you. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I will end for the meantime because time has run out and I will continue, Mr. Speaker. If the Speaker and the floor leader is amenable, I will end my interpellation for today. Tomorrow, I will continue it.
You are not yet done.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
We will be continuing until tomorrow,
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
your interpellation. Floor leader.
Thank you, Honorable Presiding Officer. Thank you, Deputy Speaker Kokoy Mastura. Thank you, Attorney Munder. We will give all the latitude to all the MPs who are going to interpellate, considering the importance of this particular legislative measure. There being, due to lack of material time, I move to suspend our session today until tomorrow afternoon. So move.
Session, there's a motion to suspend session until tomorrow. Is there any objection?